Going to be dealing with merging 4 images that have been exposed at one stop apart intervals, and we're going to be using Photoshop, and this is CS5, and we're going to be using their HDR software to merge these images together into one. So in Bridge here, I've got my 4 different exposures, and I'm going to select them all. I'm just going to go Command A, or I could select them individually and hold down Shift. And then I'm going to go up to the top to Tools, and then I'm going to go to Photoshop and then Merge to HDR Pro. And this will look basically the same in CS4. So once this opens, it's going to start to analyze my different layers. And if you'll notice, it'll start building layers on top of each other once it opens these files. So now I've got 3 images, and it'll go through and it'll analyze these, and it'll take a little while for it to work. And the more layers you have, the longer it will take. Now, some things to remind you about while this is taking a while to load is that when you have your camera on a tripod, the tripod and cable release are going to be really important when using multiple exposures. Also, you can set up your camera to do automatic bracketing. A lot of cameras will do a basic one stop over, one stop over under exposure. Some will do a lot more than that. So setting that up in your custom functions or in your menu is going to be really important. So this is my merge to HDR Pro settings, and so now I just get to, well, the first thing I want to do is click Remove Ghost, and what's going to happen is it's going to look for differences in the image, and it's going to try to get rid of those differences. Things like trees moving, cloud movement, things like that. And at the bottom of my screen, if you can see, there are several different exposures down here, and it sees these as it should see below it on your screen. You should be able to see +1, +2, -1. Like it's looking and analyzing your images to see which are how many stops apart. So just a little bit of basic info there. I can come over to my settings here, and I can pick one of the presets. Photorealistic and high contrast and low contrast usually provide the most realistic results, and they work pretty well and provide a good starting spot. So even after I choose one of these presets, I can still go back and mess with my exposures some. And know that there's also black and white functions built in. So obviously this is really, really strong right here. That's the high contrast function. So I can take the strength down if I want to. And the strength is just how strong that effect is in my image. And I'm actually going to choose a different one because that's a little too much. Okay, so thinking about all those options that I have, I can set it to what I want it to be. And know that I have a curve as well. Like if I want to mess with this curve, that's totally an option here. So just going through that again, selected my images, went Tools and to merge to HDR Pro after I selected Photoshop. brought up this box. I'm messing with it, just trying to get my settings the way I need it to be. And whenever you get this set up to a place that you're happy with it, just all you have to do is hit return, and there it goes. So once this opens, it's going to open in Photoshop, and then you can make further adjustments if you want to with adjustment layers and maybe curves, levels, working with it that way. So it's just a starting place. So this is the first way to use HDR, just in its most basic format. We'll show you a couple other videos on how to put images together using using HDR with one image, and also using HDR with just the toning for HDR, which is actually located in Photoshop. So we'll hope this helped.